we'll take some questions and stuff too. So, all right. I think that we're officially live. I pushed the button.
Okay. Well, this is gonna get weird for a second. Sorry about that.
Get weird. That's what live is all about.
Unplug it. So you were asking me about. You asked me to read something. So to answer your question, yes, I do get a little irritated at times. I wrote this thing. I read "Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee" when I was like 16 years old. It's a book about the Battle of Wounded Knee and then like the greater Native American conflicts and stuff. But uh, there was like for like 40 years now, they've been trying to get these medals of honor stripped from members of the military that fought at Wounded Knee. And fought is the worst way that were at Wounded Knee that slaughtered
massacred.
a bunch of Native Americans. So it was all set up to go, like it was going to go through. And then Hegseth was like, "No, we're not going to do that." And I got really pissed off about it. And I might have been one of very few people. And I didn't record this because I don't think that many people knew what was going on. And maybe that's a good reason to record it. So maybe I'll go back and do that. But I'll read this.
Yeah, we need this recorded. Here, let's say hi to everybody. Hello, everybody. We have a few people watching. So we're recording now. Sorry, we're a little bit late. I've been taking sabbaticals. I work 7 days a week, and most of that work is digging in and finding all the materials and support and data for the videos that I do, and then scripting and recording and editing and my YouTube stuff and podcasts and things like that. And I don't take a break. I don't get a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday off. I work 7 days a week. I'm usually up at 5 a.m, and I will still be doing podcasts and live streams sometimes until midnight. So what I've been doing is I've been doing these little mini sabbatical clusters where I can just unplug, not listen to anything going on in the news. Like I had zero idea that the government was still shut down until right now when I asked Robert, and then I come back. But unfortunately, we went out of town and I packed all of my cords. So I'm really sorry that we're late. I'm just getting up, and I am so excited once again to have the amazing Robert Arnold on with me live today. Robert, this is the truth. As we go through things like diving into the Epstein files as a domestic violence survivor and a woman who was abused myself at a very young age, diving into some of the topics that I dialogue about on my channel, and then all of the writing and interviews and things that I do, I always have to have those people that I listen to that are like my muses, my inspiration, the people that kind of keep my brain straight and kind of keep me grounded. All those different things. And you are on the top 10 people that I listen to all the time, including like Buddha. I listen to the Secular Buddhist podcast. So it's you, Secular Buddha, Gabor Mate.
That's good company right there.
Some Robert Frost, and I never miss anything that you have. So you guys, I am so honored today to have one of my favorite people who really keeps my head on straight with me. Hi, everybody. So we have Robert Arnold. And Robert, will you tell us where to find you?
Well, I'm on Instagram as Defiance13 _.
And we'll have that in the description.
TikTok is Defiance13. And I only have one. Like, if there's like 65 of them, so I apologize, but they're not me. If anybody's telling you to buy crypto, I promise you it's not me.
Okay.
And then YouTube is Robert Arnold, and Substack is Robert Arnold or Robert L. Arnold, one of the two. But I'm the only one. Anyway, it'll have my little logo thing on it. And then Facebook is Robert Arnold also.
That's and we'll put your links in the description too.
Gosh, I'm all over the place. Yeah. I should probably streamline my name on there so it's all the same thing, but I haven't done that.
So, all right. We'll put everything in the description. And did your new book come out already? Or is that a secret that I just accidentally blew the whistle on?
No, it's not out yet. Okay. The other one, I'm having some trouble.
What new book?
It's at the, so it's done. It's being edited. So that's nice. Good.
People love you, Robert.
Oh, thank you.
All right. So Robert has been thinking about Wounded Knee, and I wasn't aware of this until we discussed this right before we came on, that for years they've been trying to take away the medals, etc., from the American soldiers who massacred what tribe was it at Wounded Knee?
Uh, it is the it's the Lakota tribe. Sorry,
Okay,
I said Laramie earlier,
thank
but it's
you.
Lakota. I apologize.
Thank you. So, thinking about that, feeling some frustration, you did what you always do, which is put pen to paper and write out some thoughts for us.
Yeah, it. Like I said, I read "Bury My Heart" when I was very young, which is, you know, I don't know. It's a lot for a 16, 15, or 16-year-old to understand at the time, but then to have when you're 40, some crackpot tell you that the people that did that thing deserve to have a Congressional Medal of Honor is absurd. Anyway, so I wrote this because I was very irritated and pissed off about it at the time. And I haven't recorded this, so you'll be the first person to hear. I don't think anybody's heard this. I haven't read this out loud. So here you
Okay,
go.
so your wife hasn't heard it, the dog hasn't heard it.
Nobody. Um,
This has
yeah,
gone from
chart.
Robert Arnold's head to,
Yeah,
is
it's
it paper
paper.
or computer? And straight to our ears first. So I'm
It's not.
excited.
It's paper first, and then I transcribe it for the most part. So here we go. December 29th, 1890, South Dakota. Cold enough to kill you without a bullet. The U.S. 7th Cavalry surrounded the Lakota encampment near Wounded Knee Creek. These were not warriors waiting for battle. These were families, elders, women, children, a community decimated by disease, betrayal, and broken treaties. They'd already surrendered, they were being disarmed, and then someone fired a shot. And historians can debate who, but the truth is it doesn't really matter. Because the United States soldiers had brought a Hotchkiss gun, a kind of early machine gun that could shred a body to ribbons before it hit the ground. And they opened fire, not on combatants and not on men with rifles raised, but on a people trying to run. At least 250 Lakota were slaughtered that day, and most will tell you that the number is higher. Nearly half were women and children. They were shot in the back, some from yards away, some at point blank range, babies and grandmothers and infants clinging to the dead. And the soldiers kept firing. Then they gave themselves medals for it, 20 of them. 20 Congressional Medals of Honor, the United States military's highest commendation, handed out like sick trophies for what can only be described as a massacre. And not a battle, not strategic engagement, a slaughter. And there have been calls for decades to rescind those medals, to acknowledge that honoring genocide is not patriotism. It's a rot in the bone of a nation that still doesn't know how to tell itself the truth. Senator Kent Conrad and Representative Eleanor Holmes Norton have tried. Historians have tried. Activists, veterans, Lakota descendants. They've all begged for this one small gesture of justice. And now, just as it looked like Congress might finally move to revoke those honors, a symbolic but powerful act of moral clarity, in steps Pete Hegseth, Fox News contributor, walking high school lunchroom fight, and professional apologist for every brutal thing America has ever done in the name of order. Hegseth has publicly opposed stripping the medals. He said it would set a dangerous precedent that shouldn't rewrite history by holding soldiers accountable for what they were ordered to do. But we're not talking about some muddy battlefield where chaos reigned and the lines were blurred. We're talking about a war crime, about men opening fire on unarmed children while their mothers screamed, talking about bullets ripping through bodies that had already been starved by forced relocation and robbed of their land. And Pete thinks it's dangerous to acknowledge that maybe, just maybe, that shouldn't be celebrated. To fight for the continued recognition of those medals is to take an active stance in favor of a massacre. It is to say, yes, this was right, it was honorable, and this is the kind of soldierings we want to immortalize. It's not an act of neutrality, it's not historic preservation, it is the suffocation of truth by a ceremonial ribbon. It is the continuation of conquest under a soft tyranny of tradition. It's state sponsored moral decay dipped in brass and pinned to your chest. It is a fact that anyone in power, let alone someone with influence over policy and public discourse, would defend those medals should make your blood run cold. We have enough ghosts in this country without handing them a recommendation. We cannot bring back the dead, but at least we can do is take the ribbon off the murder weapon. The story of America has been written in blood and denial, and every time we try to tell it honestly, there's someone like Pete Hegseth standing by the graves with a paintbrush trying to make the blood look like roses. But I remember when I read when I was 16. I remember the silence between the paragraphs and the way it changed the way I saw the land beneath my feet. So I won't forget, because the truth of Wounded Knee isn't just history, it's a prophecy. It's if you let injustice be decorated long enough, it becomes law. And if you praise a massacre, you only prepare for the next one. So take the goddamn medals back. And while you're at it, teach your kids the truth and tear down the lies and build a country brave enough to admit when it's been wrong because the ghosts are watching. That's that one.
Oh my god. I feel like we're having a silent standing ovation for a moment.
Uh, it's
Somebody says this is guttural pain. Um, I always listen to your videos 2 or 3 times so I can digest it, and then I don't talk to anybody, I don't answer the phone, I don't do anything, I just let them percolate, and I don't I can't make you reread it 3 times.
I'll send it to you. How about that?
So, that's a Robert. You have some applause, you
Oh, thank you very much.
Robert, why do we bury the past? I was a 44-year-old woman and had absolutely no concept of just the First Nations perspective on the present, on where we are today. I went to a farmer's market. We have this huge farmer's market that's just about 3 minutes away from my house. I walk to it on Sundays, and I love Indian fry bread, right? The Navajo fry bread. And one morning for breakfast, I decided to get one. And it's this Navajo couple, and they sell some jewelry and they do the Navajo tacos. And I asked, like, what is the history? This was just about 2 months ago. I said, what is the history of the Navajo fry bread? Like, where did it come from? And with a totally straight face, smile on her face, looking me dead in the eye, this Navajo woman says, when the government stole our land and everything they had and murdered most of our nation, and we were in the middle of the march, the death march that you probably call the Trail of Tears, all we had was government flour, water, and lard. And so we learned how to make something out of it, and that's called fry bread. I don't know how many times I've gone to ski resorts and they have that right up there on the little menu. Indian fry bread is what it always says. And I always thought this is just this, it's a snack. It's so tasty. Never realizing the history behind it. We have buried the past of the First Nations people. Why? Why do we bury it?
Well, this is on, on a larger scope, I guess. It's inconvenient to talk about. That's not inconvenient. That's not the right way to frame it. We don't know how to condemn the past and move forward, right? Uh, and I say we as in
Humans in general or American
no, I mean
society?
mostly
Who's your
American
we?
white people.
Okay.
Uh, to be fair, there's a way to condemn your past and to move forward, and the United States government as a whole has never understood how to do it. Um, you, we've made a lot of mistakes and done a lot of terrible things. To condemn those things is not to condemn your current state. Like, you don't have to participate in it to admit that the people that you come from, your ancestors or whatever, were pieces of shit. Like, you don't have to, you don't have to wrap yourselves in it. But you can say it was wrong and it was bad and that we should learn from it and study it and understand the mistakes that we made. And so you bury it because it's inconvenient and it's uncomfortable and it's a hard thing to sit with. Um,
I
because
agree with
we,
Scarlett. White supremacy is a big component of that.
of
We've had
course,
such a white-centric worldview,
um,
and that status and stratification and power of the white people being at the top, if we admit that we were wrong in the past, then we were monsters back then, and it's a little
Sure.
bit tricky because then we lose a little bit of that trust.
We romanticize our founding, um, because we take the good parts of it. We stood up to empire and monarchy, and we built something that was supposed to be better. Two things can exist at the same time. You can you can appreciate the philosophy and the education and the rebellious spirit that went into the founding of the government, and then also acknowledge that it was built on the backs of marginalized people. Um, and
Agreed.
I don't think that you have to reach very far to say that there were certain things like slavery and that were so that were so entrenched in the societal view that they thought that they were doing the way they treated those people mattered, to the extent of, oh well, that's just part of society. We're not going to be abusive to physically or anything to the people that we own, without acknowledging the fact you've taken liberty and freedom away from those people. Like, it doesn't make you a better person because you didn't beat them. Like, it doesn't. Um, we don't acknowledge that part of it. I think we would like to just walk away from that and pretend like that wasn't us. We didn't do it, but we can't. It's hard to romanticize that part of it without accepting the fact there were a lot of issues, and uh, burying it is easier, I guess, is the simple way to answer that question. Um, People don't like looking in mirrors a lot, especially people in power or people that think that have been told their entire lives that their worldview is the most important one.
I
Um,
think that's a big part of everything going on everywhere. Just having been inside the Mormon Church and MAGA and evangelical Christianity for a little while, and these high control groups, I wasn't accustomed to looking in a mirror at all. Nobody ever asked me to. I was supposed to look through the telescope or the binoculars at what the neighbor was doing or what the people over there were doing. It was all about the gay people. It was all about the unmarried moms and the people getting abortions and, the liars and the thieves and the people who are breaking all the 10 commandments, right? Like I was deeply, deeply trained to look out there. And yeah, I did do a little bit of self-reflection just to make sure that I wasn't sinning, am I thinking naughty things about a boy, like some of that stuff, but not really behavior changing, rule following introspection, but not like a deep soul searching introspection. And 7 years ago when I left the Mormon church, and then 2 years ago when I broke up with Jesus and became an atheist, and then, realigned my politics and really everything, and all those things that pushed me forward as a human has all just crumbled to the ground, and I had to rebuild from the ground up. And it's the first time I'm this 46, 47, 48-year-old woman looking in a mirror at this for the first time ever. And Robert, it sucks. It is so easy to look through binoculars at, the guy down the street, the people over there, somebody else, and to scapegoat and blame them. It feels really good because then I don't have to do anything. When I
sure,
started looking in that mirror and realized, I have some reparations to make, I have some people to apologize to, I have some therapy that I need to I need to hire a therapist so that I can get rid of some of these toxic thought patterns because I wasn't figuring out how to break them. I need to read some different books. I have to actually wake up and work on something. It's hard and it's painful. And for me, realizing the atrocities that we had committed against other people, um, was almost so overwhelming, like just the darkness of the world. And oh, that wasn't godly. God didn't command us to do those things. None of this can be justified. When I found myself in that nihilistic void, it was like looking over the cliff at my own soul and not knowing if I personally was going to get through that deep dive into soul searching.
sure.
It's painful. It's inconvenient.
There's a it is hard to reconcile with the idea that you may not be a white supremacist yourself, but you can't deny that we are that you are
Complicity
that
and benefiting. Yeah.
you're the beneficiary of it. Um, it Now you may not have you didn't choose it. You're just born the way you're born, but you certainly were born the beneficiary of other people's cruelty, and it's hard to reckon with that, um, because it's accepting a certain amount of responsibility for things that you didn't do, but still you have to acknowledge that it's been done. And I think
But then that
sometimes people.
acknowledgement,
Oh, sorry.
then
Go
we have to
ahead. Yeah.
change something. Then
Yeah.
that acknowledgement, you acknowledge it and then like, "Oh, maybe I can't make up for the past, but maybe that means I have to do things a little bit differently."
Yeah.
And
Of course.
none of us wanna change. We really don't. We wanna wake up every day and do things the same. Human beings, we just want things to be easy.
Yeah.
That's what we're hardwired for. And so if I acknowledge that I'm benefiting from white supremacy, if I'm benefiting from a power structure that keeps certain people even today enslaved and in terrible living situations, if I'm benefiting from that, well, then maybe tomorrow I have to do something different and I don't want to. Like, I like my
Yeah.
life the way it is. It's so easy.
Uh, I think that's where I think that's the justification people make for not doing things better, or they're able to just say, "Well, I'm not a bad person." But I think the knowledge that you benefit from bad things, like you're benefiting from the perpetuation of white supremacy as a worldview, requires you to change your, like you said, you have to do something, and doing nothing is problematic. It's adding to the problem, and I don't know. It's those are the those are the reasons that people bury stuff and they try to whitewash or sanitize history so they don't have to reckon with that, because it's hard. I mean, it is a difficult thing to process, but it's something that has to be processed. Well, you can process it or sweep it under the rug, and so far, most people have chosen to sweep it under the rug. So, um, yeah, I guess to answer your question, that's my reason for why I think that they try to bury history.
Sometimes I think too that like what's going on with like Hegseth and MAGA right now is that they actually promote and support that history. So Robert, if you're
Oh
just
yeah,
hopping on, Robert read to us an original that he hasn't published yet about the Battle of
Wounded Knee.
Wounded Knee. Sorry, and
So
it wasn't the Lakota, it was the Lakota. Sorry,
it
I
wasn't
have
like
the
that.
detail
Yeah.
against the Lakota, and how Hegseth is, these guys got medals for massacring women and children and a population of people that didn't have anywhere near the military technology that the American soldiers did. They should be war criminals, is what they should be. That's what they are. They slaughtered human beings. And there's no way really forward to reparations, but I feel like there has always been, and now they're more vocal, people who actually salute that, who actually celebrate that.
I, I think you have a Secretary of Defense or Secretary of War, whatever he's calling himself. That certainly does. I, I I don't think it's a neutrality. I don't think it has anything to do with just not wanting to change, to fall into a pattern of stripping metals. I think that he truly probably believes that that was justified action. Um, and look, there's a lot wrong with the entire Western expansion. I mean, but there's certainly tragedies that Jackson and his the Death March or Trail of Tears, whatever you want to call it. I mean, there's, God, it's so bad. Like it's really, we did some terrible things, uh, that we should answer for and at least try to make. You'll never make them right. I don't mean it that way, but begin to start the process of um, at least admitting the fault and trying to set recourse for our actions.
President Biden here, I'm trying to look this up. I can't remember where it was, but it was almost towards the end of President Biden's term here. On October 2nd, 2025, President Biden apologized. I remember watching this on PBS, so about a year ago.
Hmm.
PBS just broadcast. President Biden is here. So on October 2nd, 2025, President Biden apologized for the federal Indian boarding school system in a speech delivered to tribal nations. And I'm sure that you could find this. If I can find a link to it, then I'll post it in the description of this video. There were all of these tribal leaders gathered for the President of the United States to stand face to face with them and, from a podium over a microphone, apologize for the boarding school system, which stripped the culture and was such an abominable thing to do. Um, and it was in a speech delivered to tribal nations. During the address, he acknowledged the government's role in a policy that caused profound trauma and loss for generations of Native American children and their families. Here's some key details from President Biden's speech. The formal apology at the event, Presidential Conference of Native American Issues, held in my home state near Phoenix, Arizona. It wasn't too far from here. Biden issued a formal apology on behalf of the government. He described the federal boarding policy as a sin on our soul and a significant mark of shame, a blot on American history. Robert, in my opinion, this is where change happened, because we're not just a civilization. Have you heard the phrase, it's not business, it's personal? I've heard that so many times in my life. It's always like my ex-husband's best friend, who was our business partner, decides to screw us over and embezzle and whatever, and we're in a lawsuit. Well, this isn't business, this is personal. I still love you. But we are humans and we are not transactional. We are wired to be connectional. We are wired to
Sure.
connect with other humans. And I think that it's important to make these apologies. He called for healing. The president called the nation to remember and learn. Those two words right there, remember and learn from the painful history of boarding schools, to heal as a nation, recognizing that the apology is just one step forward. And then he promoted advocacy. He praised the efforts of survivors, advocates, and tribal leaders for bringing the issue to national attention and pushing for accountability. So, anyway, since 2021, President Biden has signed several executive orders and memoranda aimed at strengthening tribal sovereignty. So he's not just out there giving this apology in the speech, which was absolutely beautiful. I watched it a couple times through. But he was implementing policy and strengthening that tribal sovereignty, reforming federal funding processes, and improving consultation with tribal nations. He shone a light on the missing and murdered Indigenous persons, which is such a huge problem. And in December 24, the administration released a 10-year national plan on Native language revitalization to help address the decline of Native languages, a result of historic assimilation, these boarding schools, et cetera, and some investments, co-stewardship. That one was really important. Federal agencies have increased partnerships with tribal nations to collaborate on managing federal lands rather than just telling them what to do with their land, water, and other natural resources. So it's kind of a beautiful thing. And I think that we need so much more things like that. We're at a point in history, Robert, where like Wounded Knee and some of these other things, they shouldn't be this blight on our soul as a nation. But the only way to move forward is to acknowledge and apologize and make whatever reparations we can so that we can build a better future. Glorying in these horrible tragedies and atrocities towards other humans and ignoring them, pretending that they didn't happen, rewriting history, burning the books, closing the libraries, shutting down NPR and PBS. My son's school right here in Tucson, Arizona, which is 52 something percent Latino and Native and less than 40 something percent white people like me, this past year, his American history he was sophomore, junior history class, stripped out all of the Native American history, just stripped it out, removed that from the curriculum. I went back and forth with the entire fucking school board, the principal, the teacher, everybody. Why is there no mention in 4 years of high school of any of the history of the people that lived right here? It didn't flow. So my son now is taking high school classes where they're not even talking about the Navajos, the Apaches, the Hohokams, the Tohono O'odhams, anybody else who lived in this region for tens of thousands of years, some of the oldest civilizations. They start with Father Kino, the first white person who set foot right here on Tucson soil.
That's very odd for
Mhm.
um, for Arizona, and didn't it, that seems like they would be very a lot more native forward.
I was surprised, and I never got an answer from the school board. I never got an answer from anybody. It didn't flow. They removed it. They removed the entire section on Native American history.
In
Just
Arkansas,
removed it, deleted it.
we have to take Arkansas history, which is separate from American history, where they go over Arkansas native native people separately. Like it's a whole separate class we have to take. But
Mhm.
I'm sure that will leave soon. Like I'm sure they will. I'm sure Sarah will be stripping that from us momentarily. Just give her time. I
Right?
don't like my I don't like my governor very much. So
So, burying the past is just definitely not a way forward at all. Um, I think that we can do so much better. Here, let me just click into a couple comments really quick. Yeah, it's horrific. Education is the key that unlocks the golden door to freedom.
well, that's
George
nice.
Washington Carver.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Uh,
don't want us educated, they want us controlled.
the the education system is I try to do a lot of work with like the school board and the library board here in my state, but it's one of the things that makes me the most frustrated is the access to information that we take away from our kids. And I guess it kind of leans back toward what we consider the people that run those things, like the people that get elected, a lot of times, especially in my state, are people that have no concept of any lived experience outside of their own. And so
Mhm.
if they grew up in a middle class white family, that's all the fuck they know. And so they have no idea why it's important for a 16 or 17-year-old person to read Beloved while it's an uncomfortable book, or I know why the caged bird sings. Uh, there are children out there that have that are dealing with those things, that are dealing with sexual assault, and if they don't see that, if they don't have that representation, because they're not going to get it at home necessarily. If they don't see it as being bad, if they don't see it as being wrong, or they don't see it as something that somebody else has gone through, there's no shame. Like, you don't have to be ashamed of it. Uh, it they're not going to know. And maybe your middle class child, white child, should also know that those things happen in the world before they get into the world and have to find out the hard way that that is something that exists. Um, I think those things are important. I think we strip them away to make ourselves more comfortable, not to do any good for our children. Um, and so I work on that stuff a lot.
I talk a lot about how uneducated I was, and I know even when you and I have conversations off camera, it's like, "I didn't read that, I didn't hear of that, I have no idea what you're talking about," because I didn't go to college, that wasn't pushed. I was learning how to cook and clean and bake sourdough bread and have babies, but also the education that I did have and anything that I did learn for the 44 years that I was Mormon, and then also, like, this was a big thing in Christianity too. I left the Mormon church and converted to a mainstream Christian church for 5 years after that. I felt like my education was very curated. there were good books, there were bad books, there were, wonderful ideas that I was supposed to cram my head full of, and then there were things that I wasn't even supposed to touch. And when I talk about being uneducated, I think that what I should say is that I was just very closed-minded and bigoted. I could not fathom of a worldview that was outside of my little white, mostly privileged life in the country club neighborhoods of Mesa, Arizona, with my hyper religious community. I could truly not relate to other people at all. And I thought that other people should just live like me. Like I was the ideal. I was light on the hill. I was the chosen. And part of the reason that my community was able to keep me in that mindset was the lack of education, the lack of reading, the lack of exposure to other people and other ideas. And it's funny that the things that actually helped me deconstruct that and leave my hyper religious community and leave my really intense all right. Like, I mean, there's like MAGA light, and then there's what I was involved in, right? What helped me leave that was just simply I started to hear other stories. I started to see other worldviews. I started to connect to other people who had life experiences that were very different than mine. And rather than judging and thinking, well, you're doing it wrong, you should be more like me, I truly tried to, like my granddad used to say, walk a mile in somebody else's shoes. I truly tried to emotionally walk a mile in that person's shoes. And that opened up the door to everything, all of the change in my life. But that curated education was what kept my bigoted, racist, very white supremacist, very American centric worldview intact. I had some education. It was very, very specific.
Well, I there's a reason why most college educated um, persons end up being more on the liberal leftist side of things. And I say most, not all, obviously. But it's because universities become this kind of melting pot. And you're interwoven with people of a lot of different backgrounds and lived experiences. And look, I'm not going to ever know what it's like to be a gay black man in America, but I can read James Baldwin and I can get a sense of it. And while it's not exactly the same thing, I can then take that I've read and apply it to the world, and I can try to understand somebody better versus just writing them off as making bad choices or not knowing whatever excuses you make. And it goes actually a lot further than just the books that we don't let our kids read or restrict access to. It goes to, when I say we romanticize the founding, we have painted to a lot of people this idea of our founding fathers and the Constitution and all that as this like religious document almost, where it is
Agreed.
truly, it's unfallible. It was spoken by God to these people, and it has never been right. And they don't teach kids anymore in civics class that they argued about this shit for 10 years before they ratified it. Like it didn't just come out of the gates and James Madison penned a constitution. Everybody was like, that's great, let's do it. It's like there was a lot of work that went into that. There's a lot of argument that went into that. And they wrote books and
Okay, so
books and
I didn't even know that, Robert. The 10 Commandments, how like Moses goes up the mountain and then he comes down and he has the tablets because it was written by the hand of God. I thought that that's how the Constitution was. I thought that like George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, all those guys, that like God spoke to them through the Spirit and wrote his truth on their hearts. Now, I did believe that the Constitution was a placeholder for Jesus coming back. In the end, it was going to be a theocracy, like the prophet was going to take over and then Jesus was
sure,
going to come back to rule and reign forever and ever. Amen. But I
as we
believed that
all
that
do.
placeholder, yeah, that placeholder had been written by the hand of God just as Moses. So it was only like 2 years ago when I started to analyze and deconstruct my politics that I started to read some of this. It's like, oh, snap. Like there was no just like holy moment where George Washington stood on a hill overlooking America and the words just came to him and he wrote them in a little notebook somewhere in his breeches. No, there wasn't that moment. It was humans arguing back and forth and a lot of dialogue and a lot of brainstorming. And really, like, the Constitution isn't some divine revelation, it's an experiment.
It
It's an experimental
is.
philosophy.
I
Would you
I
say that's
pers-
true?
Yeah, of course it is. This is James Madison's notes on the Federal Convention of 1787. That's it. This is his. These are the notes he made on the debates.
Is that what you read, like, when you're
Yeah, I'm
trying
a
to fall asleep at
fucking
night?
nerd, man. Yeah. But that's just the notes from James Madison on the debates before they even
How do we
ratified.
find that?
That's
What's that book called? Is it just called James Madison's Notes?
It's called the notes on the
Okay.
Federal Convention of 1787. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's literally just his journal notes on
Hmm.
it. Um, like everybody's debate. This is when he went back. He went to the Articles of when the Articles of Confederation failed, and Madison and Hamilton and John Jay stepped in and wrote the Federalist Papers about this is what we need a constant. This is what the Constitution should do. They were in reference to like Cato and Brutus and Sentinel's essays about why there shouldn't be a federal government and why it should just be individual states. Kind of the individual states thing had just failed, so they um, now they're going to do a federal government, but if they're trying to decide between how much rights states get versus a federal government, and they argued for a long time about it. The Bill of Rights uh, was written as a promise so that they would ratify the Constitution. But and I say that we miss that part. We don't talk about that enough because it's supposed to still be argued over. Like it's supposed to evolve and it's supposed to change, and we're supposed to improve it as we can. And in improving it or making it better doesn't mean that you change the idea of the United States. The idea of the United States is that we build laws based on shields and not turn them into cages. That's John Locke. That's not Jefferson. Just really liked John Locke, and so did Madison. So they wrote a bunch of his stuff into the Constitution. Same thing with Rousseau and Montesquieu. It, they're all philosophies on governance that our founding fathers took and all put together. And it should be debated. It's supposed to be. It's supposed to be. There's supposed to be differing views. It's not. That's why we're so far off from where we started. Because we don't have these conversations anymore. We have a Pledge of Allegiance. The founding father would never have had a Pledge of Allegiance in there. Could not have
Why do you say
conceived
that?
because you're because they weren't devoted to a country as a flag or as the government was just representative of the people. They didn't. They had just
It
left
wasn't
a
America
crown.
as a cult.
Yeah, that was never supposed to be like that. So the idea that James Madison or if they were going to do that, they would have done it up front. Like they would have been like, "We're going to have this thing. You're going to." They didn't want anyone to have to pledge allegiance or swear loyalty, like a swear loyalty oath, as a citizen to the government. The government officials are just supposed to swear an allegiance or an oath to the Constitution, which is a set of laws that protect the citizens. That's all it is. Like
Hmm.
criminal and civil code is a completely different thing. The Constitution is a laws is just a set of laws that protect the citizens from the government. And that's the part we fucking forget about. That's what they don't remind our children about and they don't talk about on the news is that we are supposed to be governed by the consent of the governed, and instead we've gotten lost in this idea that the government's our parents and that we're just a bunch of unruly children, and that's not the way it's supposed to be. That's
Don't you
my
feel like we're lazy? So I'm old, and I always have to remind people that I'm a 51-year-old grandma. So I was born in the early 70s, and life was very different.
sure.
I was raised with a concept of it's my job, even as like a 5, 6, 12, 18-year-old, to do my part in the world. Like, we had these good citizen awards every month in my elementary school classes growing up, and I very much felt like the little part that I did, "Whate'er thou art, do well thy part." I think it's a Scottish saying, and that was something that was a common saying in my household. I think it came from a Mormon prophet, and I believed that just the little bit of stuff that I was doing in the world can make an impact, and that it was all of our job collectively to make the world better. I don't feel that anymore from people. I feel like that kind of changed 20, 30 years ago, and we've lost it. And I know that I blame electronics a lot, but they have artificially supplanted our natural connection to one another to where people don't go out and talk anymore. And if we're on an elevator with somebody we don't talk to and we're just on our phones, I do because I'm old, I'm a grandma, right? So
Sure.
I get on an elevator, I have my phone in my pocket or I've lost it. I don't know where it is half the time. So I'm going to talk to everybody in the elevator. Hi, I'm Jenny. What's your name? Where are you visiting from? Where are you headed? What do you have for lunch? We've lost that connection to one another. That tribal decay has caused so much corrosion with our connection. And I don't know, consumerism, we've all gotten lazy. I don't think that the average American wakes up and thinks, what am I doing to make the world a better place today? I know that some do, not everybody is just, enjoying themselves. After World War II and going into some of that tumultuous era, I think that people were so much more engaged. We're a young country. We had to do our part to make the world better, and I don't feel like we have that anymore. Do you? Do you feel like most
No,
people are even thinking about the consequences, like, 2 days from now, what am I doing that how is that gonna impact? We don't think about the consequences of what we're
I
doing,
think
and
it's
we're not trying to make the
changing.
world better.
I think we're turning back to that, but it.
We're finally engaging for the first time. Don't you feel like we've all just been, like, on this canoe ride? Oop, I just lost Robert. It is definitely more stressful and complicated. I just lost Robert. I wonder if we have a tech glitch. Robert got raptured and okay, shoot. At least 50% of the time I forget to plug in. Okay, we're back.
Sorry, my daughter FaceTimed me and it completely it turned off everything.
You didn't get
Sorry about that.
raptured?
No, I didn't. Really, really missed the boat there. I don't even. Uh, I lost my thread.
People used to be good citizens, and I
Oh,
feel like now we don't think about that. We're so self-focused, and that's a sociological shift that has certainly happened in America. I don't ever speak for the whole globe because I don't live in the whole world. I just live in
sure.
America. But we have, according to sociologists, shifted from more of a collective lifestyle and collective worldview to a much more individualistic worldview today. And that was a huge shift in the 60s, 70s, where, women's lib and the hippie movement and more independence. And then just naturally, like our lives, like we don't need each other anymore. I can hire a daycare. I can Uber my food to me. I don't even need to talk to the waitress at the restaurant. We have this new crab shack that just opened up a couple miles away from me. And one of these little robots comes to the table and I push the button and then the robot brings me my steamed crab. We don't need each other anymore. We're very individualistic. And I don't feel like any of us are focused on being good citizens. So that's where we're at. Do you agree with that? You were saying that you think that we're engaging a
Yes.
little bit more before you got raptured.
Yeah. I think that we are starting to now, but I think that especially late 70s and 80s, as we started to increase our productivity, like we started expecting more out of employees. Um, and as we've added distractions in social media, whatever, we have lost those things that kept us engaged civically. Uh, Clubs like like junior league and Rotary Club and things that got people out in the community. We don't do those things anymore.
And we don't do any of that stuff anymore. It's
No,
ridiculous.
and so as we lose those kinds of things, we do lose a connection to ourselves, and those things being out in the community, you just felt more sense of civic pride and duty to, I don't know, to be there for each other, like you were just around each other more. And so we've just lost that. And it's a snowball effect. But I think the product of people getting out and that activism is really on the rise has started to build that community back in. At least that's what I say. It may not be across the board, but I deal obviously with a lot of people that are activists and protesters and such. So um, we are starting to see some of those small communities and community minded things kind of coming back, which is very good. But we are all still plugged in a lot. So I don't know. We'll see. But I think those are the
Sir
reasons why we're
Crumbly
doing it.
Blunder Truss. I just love the handle. Lives in a small market town in the UK, loves my content, loves our content. Um, Sir Crumbly Blunder Test, you have a guest bedroom because a small market town in the UK sounds nice right now.
Small market town. I just did a live with Charlotte in France and Martin from Truth Matters. They're both
Mm.
from the UK. So I've had a lot of I've had a lot of accents today.
You can't touch each other, so how can you go dancing? It objectifies people. And Carrie Ann, I think that that's a shift that I've seen. When I was a kid, like, you could sit on your teacher's lap, and there was just so much more human connection. When I worked in a school here 6 years ago, the kids were always, like, putting their fingers in my hair, and I wasn't allowed to let them touch my hair. I had to say, "Don't touch my hair."
Well, let me ask you this question, Friday. Do you think that we take things to an extreme for like and just to carry Ann's comment point? You can't touch the other, you can't go dancing. I understand that some of that is like a hyperbolic exaggeration of that idea, but um, do, do we have this understanding or concept socially that uh, we either have to have no boundaries or full boundaries, or I mean, where's the common sense line there where if you are going to go be with people and do things, like is there a threshold of communication, or are you just supposed to wing it? Like, I don't know. um I consider myself to be fairly um uh respectful in those environments, so like I don't think I've taken any, like I don't,
Mhm.
I'm not going to be accused of doing crazy, like no, you're not going to hear about that about me. But um I mean, certainly there are people that do, but that can't be the rule. That's got to be the exception, I would think.
So, Robert, I think that that's just one of the side effects of the tribal decay because when we industrialized and we built, like, America's just Walmart at this point, instead of communal and connective and cooperative, our entire nation is a corporation, right? So everything had to be homogenized, and we act more like a corporation than we do a civilization. So when that happened, and you no longer know the guy down the street and the person over there, and we don't have aunts and uncles and our tribes around us, we're all dealing with a bunch of strangers. We don't know anybody's lives. We don't know how people behave. And so we have to set these standards. Like, as a school teacher, my first graders couldn't touch my hair, couldn't, couldn't do anything. They could not touch my hair, touch me, um, no touching whatsoever. That's not because a human child um, shouldn't touch their teacher's hair. That's not because we shouldn't dance. That's not because we shouldn't hold hands. It's because we have this big corporation now, so we have to have these rules because everybody's strangers, we don't know each other, and we have to operate in a way that's very contrary to our nature. I talk all the time about, like, I'm not necessarily a Democrat, I am a naturalist. I believe that humans, we are just animals, and we have these beautiful instincts that are so incredible, but we're all the elephants in the zoo now. We live in these cages. We live a very unnatural life. When we broke down our small towns and our villages, when we ripped apart our individual families, and now just the complete ungluing of our neighborhoods, we no longer know each other. We no longer know what to expect of other people. So we have to set really unnatural rules because of that.
I and the reason I ask is, again, I'm 40, and I'm a 40-year-old man. But so I don't deal with a lot of things that my friends that are female deal with. Like, I don't get it. I think that we have this society where it's the pictures and the inappropriate shit they get sent to my friends that are female of all ages. I mean, is
Yep.
absurd. Like,
I get
people don't
dozens of
like.
those a week.
How do you not know as a man or anybody? Like, how do you not know that that's not okay, or that that's not going to be received well? That's that's the worry that I have, is that we've reached a point where it's people say that stuff like you can't do anything anymore. You can't say anything. It's like, no, you can say normal, regular shit. You can do normal, regular stuff. What you can't do is send pictures of your penis to people that didn't ask for a picture of your penis. Like, that's that's not a violation of your
It's
rights.
not even that step, it's like the strangers talking to you when you're at a coffee shop or something, like, it's so beyond that. But again, that's the tribal decay, because if you live in a small village, okay, you live in a small village, and let's say the farmer down the street from you is doing something creepy. Everybody knows about it. The village is going to moderate his behavior and protect, you know, whoever. Because we are such lone wolves now, we rely on systems like the police, like, our punitive system, lawyers, etc., to protect us from one another. That tribal decay modifies our behavior in ways that strips us of our humanity. Same thing with domestic violence. If you lived in yesterday, we actually tried to go to, I can't pronounce the name. Um, what is it called? There are these First Nations ruins that are just north of Cottonwood, Arizona here. It's one of the largest pueblos in North America. There's one in New Mexico that's larger. It's this hilltop village that had 114 rooms, that these tribes traveled all the way from the Pacific Northwest along the western coast through this valley here in Arizona. And there's even macaw feathers in these ruins that the archaeologists uncovered from all the way in, like, South and Central America. So they were this population that migrated exhaustively all over the country. When you have 114 people that are living in a pueblo day in and day out, you know each other. Domestic violence isn't going to happen as much because the people in charge and the families and the sisters and everybody has eyes on each other. And that's going to be in anything that needs to be corrected is going to be corrected relationally in the human tribe. We no longer have that. We have a bunch of cogs in a system. We're all disconnected. And if something happens, we don't have this whole tribe of people around us watching it and helping us. Everybody's hands off. We call the police, report it to 911, whatever, get an attorney and try to send them to jail. That's how we handle everything. So, because of that, we have to be hands off. Because of that, as a school teacher, I couldn't let my children touch my hair. For some reason, school kids, they always have to have their hands on somebody. If you're a first grader, you have a finger in somebody's ear, you're grabbing each other's shirts, you're poking each other with pencils, and legally I was not allowed to let children touch me at all. If I needed to lift a child and carry them to the nurse's office or help tie a shoe, things like that, I could. But because we're no longer connected as a tribe, we have to behave in a way that's very dysfunctional.
I never really considered it all the way to that. Sorry, I'm making notes because of that.
Yeah, domestic violence happens a lot less often when you have small villages and everybody talks and everybody knows what everybody's doing, unless you have some really toxic social mores. Of course, individual small communities and villages can do terrible things too, but humans having eyes on other humans. I was the victim of domestic violence. One afternoon, my ex-husband, while we were divorcing, the post-separation abuse during our divorce was the most life-threatening. I had life-threatening domestic violence, that I was dealing with on a chronic basis. In the middle of our apartment, our condo's parking lot at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, my ex-husband, with the windows rolled down, was screaming profanity at me, specifically, "Die, you fucking pussy," was what he was screaming at me. Then he backed up the car, then he struck me with his vehicle, knocked me down. I hopped the curb, hopped some bushes. There's people everywhere. Not one single person, neighbors, people right there in my condos, not one person, Robert, asked me if I was okay. Not one person called 911. Not one person yelled, "Hey, leave her alone." Nobody did anything. I stood there crying. I called my mom, told her I was going to call the police. I needed to get off the phone, went into my condo. We are so detached and disconnected from one another. We no longer have that human bond, that tribal glue that makes us behave in protective ways towards one another no longer exists. So he could have my ex-husband could have ended my life right there in my parking lot, and I don't think that nobody said they were sorry. Nobody said a thing. And that's just one of so many examples.
That is so
Yeah,
hard for me to
bystander
imagine.
effect.
Um,
And that bystander effect, again, is a symptom of tribal decay because if we don't know somebody, that happens to your own sister, you're going to run over there, you're going to do something. But we are moving amongst strangers. We have completely decimated our extended families and our villages and our tightly connected neighborhoods that human beings have always had for all of human history. And we're just these disconnected strangers moving past each other. So that bystander effect happens. And yeah, if a guy texts me something, well, I don't know this guy. And I know that I don't have people around me that are going to protect me. So I have to be, so defensive about everything. It's the tribal decay that's the root of all of it, isn't it?
I mean, it
Yeah,
makes
try that in a small
sense.
town. Try that in a small town. Try that in a
Uh,
small town.
so I have this very interesting perspective, and I came small town kid. So I went from small town where we would not have done something like we wouldn't have let something like that. I don't think I wouldn't have just sat back on that. And then I worked in the restaurant business, service industry for most of my career, where you work in bars and stuff. Every time there's anything, like you're involved, like you don't get to just stand. There's no bystander when you work in a bar. Uh, so I just don't, I can't imagine something like that happening without putting myself in the middle of it, which is I'm not trying to make myself sound like a good person or anything. I just,
A couple
uh,
walked their dog past me, just like their chains jingling, looked at me, just kept walking.
that's,
I
that's,
work with I work with women who've been abused, and I rarely hear an exception to that. Like, rarely do you hear of somebody stepping in and helping.
that's wild. I, um, I'm at a loss. Like I cannot imagine that. Like I know that that exists. Like I'm not saying like that. It's just, uh, mm, all right. I can't. I'm having a hard time with that one.
Yeah, sometime, you just need to have a phone conversation. And I have some stories that I can't even tell on YouTube because they're so terrifying, where people stepped over me and walked past me and did nothing. I spent 24 years being abused in public in front of people, and
Was it
rarely
with
did
it?
anyone help.
Was it church people or people that were in your church community that didn't
Yeah,
care, or was
yeah,
it?
church community people too. And yeah, just sometimes friends, being at friends' houses or being out to dinner. A grocery store was one big thing where I was in an absolute shambles, and then I was laying in the rocks under a tree crying and injured, and I don't know how many people walked past me and did nothing. So,
Jesus Christ.
mhm.
Um,
Wait for the
well,
book, Robert.
oh my God, I don't know that I can read it.
But so not to have a Jenny pity party,
Sure.
I think that I like to look in the mirror. I think that so many of us today do similar things where how many times do I walk past a homeless person? How many times do I see a neighbor who has to move out because they can't pay their rent? And it's like, oh, you guys are moving? Yeah, we can't afford it here. I'm moving back in with my mom. And we have this way of just, we're strangers moving past one another in this society. We don't do anything. We don't care. We're not connected. And that's nice because then we can just go on with our lives. But I think, like, wouldn't you say that the cure to part of the things that we're facing right now as a nation is reconnecting, re-engaging? We have been unplugged from one another. I couldn't start our live stream because I didn't have my cords because
Right.
we went on a little sabbatical and cords are important. I had to plug in my ring light and my mic. We need to plug ourselves back into the people around us, to our communities, to other human beings.
I think community is probably the most important thing that we do. Uh, and I think that there's this, not to get all conspiracy theorist on you,
I like a
but
little conspiracy theorist from Robert. Like, that's
I mean,
kinda I love that from you. Gimme.
um, there's a certain amount of benefit to the powers that be in keeping us divided and distracted. And if we are plugged in on our phones, and they can control that narrative, they can control kind of control what you see and what you talk about. Um, and it keeps you from creating community outside of your home. Then you're easier to divide, you're easier to lie to. Um, if you've got
You're also a
strong
better
civics,
customer.
yeah, 100%. It erodes your civic identity, um, and your connection with the people around you. Just like you're saying, it's tribal decay. I really like that.
I
Um,
invented that, thank you.
did you?
I invented that at the dentist when I had my tooth pulled out, because I
Well,
was, writing a script in my head, and my dentist kept talking about my tooth decay, and I was writing a script about community, and I was like, "Tooth decay, it's like tribal decay and tribal hygiene." So, thanks to having a dental abscess, I
100%.
pulled all of my sociological studies of the past 6 months together and created the term tribal decay.
I think people are going to use it in the future. I think it's a good word.
Well, I use it all the
It's
time, it's really helpful.
um, you're gonna have to put a TM on that because somebody's gonna steal it from you. It won't be me,
Well,
but somebody will steal it from you. I'll make sure that everybody knows it's yours.
I'm a mom, right? So I teach my kids through allegories. I've always taught my kids through, if you can have some example or some little fable or something that you can tell your kids to teach them whatever the thing is. So I've always been a big allegory person, and I like those visual images myself. So when you think about tribal decay, and I know when I talk about that sometimes, I do have people comment on my videos whenever I do videos on tribal decay. People are like, do you mean like Native Americans? No, like humans had tribes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were a more industrialized civilization from the get-go because, the Europeans came over to America and they were somewhat industrialized at that point anyway. But we're all tribal. Our tribe is our moms, our dads, our aunts, uncles, those little pods of humans that are the social structure of our lives. That's our tribe. So no, you don't have to be Native American to have a tribe. But when you think about the concept of tribal decay, and where has your tribe gone wrong? Like, you dental decay, well, I lost a tooth and I have a crown and I had to have a root canal. That was the worst thing that I've ever had done. So the next time I just had them pull out the other tooth, right? Because root canals suck, and it was back
Yes.
molar anyway. We're always, tooth decay leads to problems, and it's really visual for you to understand. Tribal decay, my mom and dad disowned me when I left the Mormon church. So my tribe has a lost tooth. I have a hole that impacts my children on a fairly regular basis. I don't have grandparents. I don't have that support network. And thinking about the tribal hygiene, and then sometimes you need that oral surgery, you need that tribal surgery. So for me, I had to go in, and just like I had to have an implant in my jaw so I could replace that molar, I have had to very strategically, very surgically find friends, find community, make sure that I get to know my neighbors because I have widespread tribal decay. I have nobody. I'm a virtual orphan. There's not a single person in my family that I have contact with because I'm ex Mormon, ex MAGA. I do the things that I do, and not one of them wants anything to do with me. So I am always focused on that very surgical, the fillings and the crowns and the artificial teeth to flesh back out my tribe. So it's a great allegory.
I
And the
like
tribal
it.
hygiene really is the most important bit because if you're brushing your
Tribal
teeth and
hygiene.
using a good mouthwash and flossing every day, and those are the things that, I wish that I had had a better relationship with my parents. I wish that they had focused on the tribal hygiene. I wish that they had kept those connections and that we had worked harder to prevent just, the loss of very important molars.
Yeah.
So
Uh, that's very good. I like that a lot. Um, I'm not going to steal it from you, but I'm going to use it. How about that?
I steal everything from you every day.
Oh,
So
gracious. Look, it's yours. You're not stealing it. It's yours.
how many times do I use your videos in my videos? I'm like, oh, I need to find something besides a Robert video to do a little snippet in
Look,
this one.
look, you use whatever you need to, with him just at will, please.
I always
Uh,
credit you. Credit's the thing. Tooth decay leads to heart problems, as above, so below.
Paulina,
Beautiful.
I'm from Arkansas, which means that we have a lot of storms, especially this time of year. Anyway, uh, and when your comments pop up, all I see is green with a little splash of red in it, and it looks like a storm warning has come up on my phone. And anyway, that's
Wait, let me
I don't know
find a
why I want
Paulina.
to tell you that.
Yeah. That looks like a storm warning. So Arkansas was like the scariest place that I've ever lived. Because I'm an
Ever?
Arizona girl. Ever, ever. Arkansas was horrifying because we lived in Camden, just like Camden, smack over, all that stuff right there. And it was the first time that I'd ever seen a tornado because we don't do that in Arizona. Everyone complains about the rattlesnakes and the scorpions and the heat, but like, I mean, a rattlesnake, it's gonna rattle at me. I stepped on a rattlesnake last year. It rattled at me. I was fine. The hurricanes and or not the hurricanes, the tornadoes, like there's nothing that you can do. And we didn't have like a little tornado room. So we had a tornado come through Camden and then it like wiped out part of the high school. And I look out the window at like 2 o'clock in the morning and there are trees rolling down the street. This is not a joke, no exaggeration, like tumbleweeds. It sounded like a train was going to hit the house. Next morning, I go out and like half the neighborhood is just leveled. Y'all gotta be tough to live in that tornado alley is all I have to say.
It is. Yeah, it's something else. It's very. I don't know. I don't want to say you get used to it 'cause it's still scary every time, but it it you are prepared for it. Like it does happen pretty regularly, unfortunately.
We were driving
Uh,
home from the Duck Dynasty place, is
yeah,
that, Montgomery, Alabama, or where is that? Monroe,
Shreveport.
Louisiana? Yeah.
Yeah,
So we went to that's when Duck Dynasty was really big when we lived in Arkansas, and on our way home back out to Camden, there was this tornado and we were in our car. And so then my little West Coast self, I just felt like I was in like Twister, the movie. And there were like just tornadoes like everywhere, nowhere to stop. We're in the middle of nowhere. There was not a house in sight. There was nothing. I was screaming and crying.
it's the to when I was young. I'm from Helena, Arkansas, which is on the Mississippi River. We were going to a
Yeah.
football game when I was in high school, and as we crossed the river, there was a tornado on the Mississippi River side and a tornado on the Arkansas side of the river. As we were driving across it, uh, and there's nothing you can do about it. You're just hope for the best. Luckily, it's flat, so you can see a long way. So they're miles and miles away. So it's fine, I guess, but it's still not fun. Hell yeah, earthquakes over tornadoes.
Yeah. And rattlesnakes over all of that. Like in Arizona, we don't have tornadoes, we don't have earthquakes. We do have a hurricane coming in, but it's like by the time it gets to us, it's just going to be like 6 inches of rain. We're not even going to have any wind. So, Arizona, it is the place to be. Okay, Robert, I want to end up with a final little talking point with you, and then I know that you've got to skedaddle and have a life. I appreciate you being on here so much. You're just
Thanks for
absolutely
having me. I
amazing.
appreciate it.
Anyone who's not following Robert, I know that everybody follows Robert, but head over to his TikTok and listen to his daily things. I'll have that link in the description. Go to his YouTube, watch his stuff there, and grab his book. Your book has 50 of your favorite essays in it. So you can just flip open little Robert every morning and read. During the government shutdown here this weekend, I had to take a sabbatical just because my content is so intense. I have to just unplug, take a break, go somewhere else. So we did that. And I've been so freaked out that I texted Robert first thing in the morning. I was writing a script and I was crying, right? I'm like, I hate America. I hate Donald Trump. I wish I was still MAGA because then I'd feel like we won, but I'm not. So I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? It's like all of the grandmas that live in my neighborhood are like I have like 90-year-olds because we have this retirement facility that adjoins my condos, and they're out there protesting once a week and they're like, "Yep, this is Hitler. We're heading into the Holocaust." So they have me all hyped up all the time. I'm like, "Great, this is Hitler. We're heading into the
Yeah.
Holocaust." So I text you the other morning, "Do you think everything's collapsing? How does this end?" And you said, "I think it ends fairly peacefully." So our government is still shut down.
Yeah.
And I just want to say to any senators, first of all, please, Gavin Newsom, call me because I like what you're doing, but you need a more concise brand, and I'm willing to help for free. Also, you can hire me. I'm former MAGA, and I do a fabulous job. I've talked to so many senators. Gavin has yet to call me, so I'm just going to throw that out there. Also, a plug for my book club. Our book is free this month. I'll put it in the description. But as as passionately as I can say, from one little blonde constituent in Arizona, just keep the damn government shut down. Trump did this. Don't take away people's health benefits and let's whatever. Close it down. I'm fine with it. We're going to help each other. I think that we start like a collective to help the girls that are going to run out of WIC next month. We have to help the single moms. We have to help our veterans, the national park people. We will come together as people and we'll help one another. We'll do a giant GoFund. How do you
I
think it
think
ends? What are your thoughts on this?
the government shutdown.
Yeah.
Well, I think it ends with them coming to a negotiation on it and rolling back the healthcare thing. The Republicans will take the win, like they sacrificed everything and did what they had to do to get the government back open. Uh, Democrats will claim the win because they held out. But I think that because Republicans hold the narrative, that they will make it look like they sacrificed more. But who gives a shit, really? I think it ends probably in the next it'll end before November 1st, um, in my opinion, because it's going to do what it's going to do. Like they're going to have to roll back the the parts that they took out of Medicare anyway. And so they might as well just go ahead and get it over with. Bring them back. They've held out as long as they need to, and Democrats know that too.
What do you
So
think
I
about the
think,
fact that that little Caroline Levitt who drives me nuts? Somebody said I look like her the other day. I was doing a Caroline
did you
Levitt
fight
video
them?
and some I should. Yeah, somebody was like, "You kind of remind me of Caroline Levitt." Anyway, what do you think about the fact that she and all of the Republicans are calling this the Democratic shutdown? The Democrats have shut down the government. What's your thought on that?
I mean, of course they are. But here's the thing: if you have all three branches of government, um, what the fuck are you talking about? Are you being held hostage by the minority party in both houses? No, you're at a point like they ran the big beautiful bill through because there's nothing that Democrats can do to stop it. And so rather than take the time and negotiate, then you knew this was coming. You knew what the stakes were going to be. You could have negotiated before. It's call it whatever you want to. You have the option to do it. They could also reduce. They could do a the Senate could decide to change the votes to 53 instead of 60 if they wanted to. I mean, there's options around it. They're just making a big show out of it. Um, so I, of course, that's what they're going to call it. They're going to frame it as being the Democrats' fault because they don't know what the fuck else to do. Other than that, they'd have to govern. They'd have to do their fucking jobs. Sorry for the swearing. They would have to do their
You
jobs.
can cuss all you want. We just have to tell the grandmas in England. Grandmas in
I got
England,
you.
we're going to use the word fuck a couple times here. I feel like the English language doesn't mean what it used to mean 6 months ago with everything that I hear out of the White House. Like, you guys are using words that's not what that means. We're reinventing
I,
language.
I was talking to Charlie about this the other day, and there's nothing that you could tell me that Donald Trump had said or someone from his administration said that I wouldn't believe. Like if they said or did something, if you're like they said that they were going to outlaw pickles, I'd be like, that fucking sounds like some shit they were gonna do. Um,
The
I
Gulf
mean,
of
I'd
America,
look
when I
into
heard
it.
it, I thought it was AI. Like, I had my TV just on one day, and I don't know what I was doing, making myself a sandwich or something, and I heard that come out of the mouths of people on TV, like, and the president, when he gets into office, he's one of the first things he's gonna do is rename it to the Gulf of America. It's like, how
I
can this be real?
what's so funny to me is that that is such a big deal. Um, that we've done. Like I mean, I don't mean like it's a big deal, like it matters, but it's such
It's a big deal in
an
his head.
undertaking that we don't even nobody fucking talks about anymore. Like nobody. When was the last time that that was even a topic of the
I have
outrageous
never been
shit?
sitting around with my friends going, things are going to hell in a handbasket. I just wish if the Gulf of Mexico was the Gulf of America, my life would be so much better. Everything, the world would be safer. We do have permission from a grandmother for the cussing. So
Excellent, thank you very much. Uh,
it's
but
such an
yeah,
inconsequential thing, but it's so big in his head.
uh, it's he's something else. I guess to answer your question, finally, I think that the shutdown ends pretty unceremoniously, right? They're going to frame it how they're going to frame it. They have control of the narrative. Uh, on the broader things, I think the whole situation ends with a lot more. One, there'll be guardrails put in. I You're going to have a lot more influence of young progressives. You're starting to see that a lot with who's running for office, and you're going to have a swing back to the left. I don't know. I When I look at it's I want to make sure I say this correctly. There's no ideological anything involved with this administration. It's not like they have any sort of high moral standing that they're talking about, or any sort of real ethical ideology, or even a fucking shitty ideology that they really stand on. What they have is they want to centralized power so they can make the most amount of money and hoard it and enshrine tax cuts and things. Uh, and they're willing to sell the soul of the country to the Heritage Foundation to do it. But commerce has to keep going. That's Walmart and Tyson and Jeff Bezos still have to make their money. We're a consumer nation. You can't lock everybody up. You can't kill all the Democrats because then you wouldn't have anybody to buy shit. It's so I think it's all performative in theater. It's very scary, and people are going to get caught up in the bullshit of it. There are people are going to get hurt and killed, and that's very real. Um, but I think for the most part, hopefully over the next uh, month or two, Republicans in Congress will start to realize that they have an election to win if they want to keep their fucking jobs. And so they'd better start making some changes to the way they're doing things, or in 2026, they're going to find themselves trying to get hired by Raytheon. And there's not that many lobbyist jobs out there. So I do think there's going to have to be some concessions made. I think that Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massey are becoming the louder part of the Republican Party. Then you'll have more that start to echo those things,
Mhm.
which will benefit us because things will start to shed back toward normalcy. But that's it. I mean, that's where I think we're headed. I think we're jazzed up about it. I think it's a bad thing. I think we're in a bad spot. Uh, there's plenty to be upset and scared about for a lot of people. Um, but I do think there's at some point a return to something that looks close to normal over the next,
It's been a
especially
long few months. Like, it's
uh,
been such a long few months. Like,
as we start getting
there
closer to elections. I hope.
yeah. I love this comment. I think liberals need to control the narrative first. They need to stop being afraid to maliciously attack MAGA instead of constantly defending. They also need a more positive message about themselves. I agree with that 100%. I have a video where I say that Donald Trump won because he's an influencer, because he had a message, he put it out there, make America great again. The guy is full of shit. Like, he can't make that happen, but he's an influencer. He sold his message and he unified his voting base. And I think that I've only been a Democrat for 2 years now, right? I was MAGA, and I
Yeah.
was part of a cult, and everybody was all working together. I feel like now that I'm on the Democratic side, like, everyone's just kind of living their lives, and nobody's really out there fighting for anything. It's just like, que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be. And yes, people are working, but we're not as loud, and I don't know, it's a different personality over here on the Democratic side of things. And I do think that all of the candidates this past go around, Kamala included, didn't sell us that messaging. They need a more positive message about themselves. Like, I was on this train ride this weekend. That's what we did for our little mini sabbatical. We went on this train ride, this historic train up in northern Arizona, and there were two couples sitting just a couple little spaces over from us. And the whole entire train ride, like hours and hours, all they did was talk and talk and talk about liberals, and they were completely blatant. If we're on this train, there's all these people around, right? And they were one of the couples was from Oklahoma, the other one was from Texas. They talked about their church. They talked about how our whole entire school is so liberal now, so we had to move into a different neighborhood to get our kids out of all of those crazy liberals. And they talked about gay people, and they talked about, like, just the horrible breakdown of the families that they saw around them, blaming it all on liberals, right? And it was a weird conversation. It's like, I talk about this stuff on social media. I don't often hear people in real life just in a multi-hour train ride talking about Democrat, Republican, liberals, conservatives. And she used the word conservative so many times. I told Kevin, I want a clicker so I can count every time she uses the word conservative. This little freckled, she had the little bun. She looked so Oklahoma. I was thinking to myself this whole entire time that the Republicans have sold their message. They've sold their vision, and we haven't. I think that a lot of, like, when I was a conservative, when I was MAGA, I truly thought that everybody in the entire Democratic Party was just baby killing trans people who were anarchists, totally against America, atheists, and it was really surprising to me to find this, like, Robert, don't judge. I was shocked when I learned that Joe Biden was a Christian and went to church.
Well, I mean, I can understand that.
Who knew?
I mean,
But what
based on
but
where
that
you're coming
anybody
from,
yeah, that
uh,
anybody did. And part of
I
that
think.
is we do need to do what they're doing. We need to talk and post on social medias about our families and share our vision for our country and take back America. I ordered a flag that I'm going to fly on my car. Like, it has a little stick on it, and I'm wearing my flag pin, and you're wearing a flag shirt. I'm going all MAGA on the MAGA people.
Well, I did decide. I dress the way I didn't. I get told a lot that I look like I'm MAGA or a Trump supporter, and I get that. But I'm also not going to change the way I dress or act or talk because a bunch of fucking idiots don't know any better. Um, like they don't get to be they don't get to they don't own the United States of
Mhm.
America or the flag or the South, in my opinion. Um, I I do think that MAGA, and the best example of this is just the fact that we call them MAGA, because it's not about their message as much as they've made themselves a brand. Because the message changes all the fucking time. The message is never the same, but it is that it is that branding that they've done of this is our group, this is our people, we are this. We have a little red hat that we wear, uh, and I think the reason the Democrats don't have that is we think it's so fucking stupid
It's so
that,
fucking stupid.
that we're like, we don't, I don't want to fucking do, I don't want a hat, I don't want to have to do a thing. uh but we do need some unifier, and that helps us kind of gather around the wagon, I think. And it doesn't have to be a brand or a hat necessarily, but I think we do need some sort of unifier.
I think it's the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, and
Look, I'm your Constitution guy. If you want to talk about that, I can wax
yeah,
Edwardian for hours on it.
Robert's gonna wax constitutional for our audience.
Oh. Look, I've got a YouTube series on the philosophy of the founding. So far, the videos are an hour and 10 minutes and an hour and 33 minutes. So if you want to hear
And
me talk for an hour and 33 minutes about the Bill of Rights, you can go to my YouTube channel and watch
okay, we'll
that.
drop that in the description, and if somebody wants to go over there right now, you are how do we find your YouTube right now?
Oh, it's Robert Arnold.
You're just Robert Arnold. You're not
Yeah.
Defiance 13 or anything on YouTube. You're
Mm-mm,
just
not just me. Do you want to know how I got Defiance 13 as my name on TikTok? I'll tell you that, and then I'll let you go.
okay, how'd you get that?
I was trying to put the URL in there. I was gonna change the URL to Defiance 13, right? And I didn't uncheck the box that said, "Do you want to make this your username also or whatever?" And so when I hit send or enter or whatever, it changed my name on TikTok. And it,
Wait.
yeah, is that
I thought it was,
disappointing?
like, meaningful. Like, the 13, I thought maybe it was, like, your
It
football
is
jersey and, like,
it
colors or
is. It's
something.
the 13 part is very meaningful. It's my favorite number. It's my
Okay.
baseball number. It's tattooed all over me. Yes,
Okay,
that
that's what I need. I need it to be meaningful because I thought that
very
13
meaningful.
had, like, weight to it.
It does. It has a lot of weight to it.
Thank you.
But I didn't want it to be my name. I didn't want that to be because now I go places and people call me Defiance like it's my first name, which is very strange to me. Um, but I mean, there's worse things in the world, I suppose. But that's what happened. And then within the 7 days before I
That's
could
so
change
funny.
it, I went from like 100 followers to like 26,000. And so I couldn't change it then.
Yeah, I can't change it.
Yeah.
'Cause now everybody knows you, so
Yeah.
I know, I always think of, like, things that I could change my name to, but it's like, I'm just gonna be Life Take Two forever, but I like it, it's meaningful. Someday I'll tell
That's
you the
great.
actual Life Take Two story. I got the Life Take Two in the medical lockup that I was in after surviving almost unaliving myself when everything fell to the bottom and crashed. So, there's a lot of meaning. Someone actually
Yeah.
said, "This is your life, take 2." It's like Ron Howard just yelled, "Cut," on Jenny's life, and now you get a new life, and so here I am with my new life. I think that the Democratic vision that pushes us forward let me end my little bit of the ending. I love Emma Lazarus's Colossus poem,
Mhm.
the new Colossus, um, by the Statue of Liberty that bring me you're tired, you're poor, you're huddled masses yearning to breathe free. Um, the wretched, and it's so beautiful. I mean, it really is like this is all of my family. If you live here, then either you're a First Nations or you're an immigrant. And because I was Mormon, we know all of our family history, right? So, like, I've seen pictures of, like, some of my grandparents from, like, the late 1800s and stuff, and I know their stories. I've heard them. I know almost I know most of the immigration points in my family tree. I know my daughter Chloe, who's 22 years old, Chloe Dior, she was named after my first immigrant grandmother on one side of the family who immigrated in 1770, just before the Revolutionary War. And I think that the new Colossus just beautifully exemplifies what America is. We're a melting pot. We are not a nation of indigenous at all. We colonized, we took over. If we want to continue living here, I think that we need to go back to what we talked about at the beginning, and that's making those reparations. That's acknowledging the dark side of colonization. Not that any of my ancestors coming over thought that they were doing the wrong thing, but they had some negative impact. I think we acknowledge that, we name it, we make reparations, we apologize, and collectively we move forward. And I just absolutely love that "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door." We have this beautiful matriarchal structure, thanks to France, standing beside our coast, welcoming refugees in for so many years. And to me, that should be the symbol of anyone in America who still believes in America as this beautiful, embracing melting pot, the land of opportunity, building the American dream. That should be our motto. That should be, I want to steal that for the Democratic Party. That should be it right there. That's
You
who we
should.
are.
I will support that decision. I will support that as a mantra and as a symbol. Um, if they're gonna steal the flag, we'll just take the Statue of Liberty.
Oh, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do
I'm on board.
All
My
right.
dog is trying to climb in my lap. You
Somebody
want to
says
meet my
I'm
dog?
loud. I love your dog. What's
Look,
her name?
his name's Buster.
Buster.
He's a baby. I mean, he's not a baby, he's old, but he's just very needy at the moment. He's been very good all day, but look at him. You say hi?
Hello, Buster. Oh, he has such a cute face.
Yeah, him sweet. Well,
He's
thanks for having me. I appreciate this. This was very
Thank you.
nice.
You're amazing, and I'll put all of the links and descriptions for everybody. My favorite way to consume Robert is his TikTok. I listen to his videos whenever he writes a new essay and posts. I listen 3 times and then just sit with it in silence for a little bit to kinda digest. I absolutely love how you help me process, political and social and relational things that we're all walking through together. So thank you for being a beacon. Thank you for the way your brain thinks, that you're able to process so I don't have to. And for everything you do. Do you have any final thoughts for us?
No, I do. I certainly appreciate. I thank you for the kind words, and thanks everybody for the support and for everybody's kind word that put comments on everything. So, uh, and again, I really enjoy these talks that we get to have on the phone and off the and on the lives. But uh, anyway, thank you so much. I
Well, you're
appreciate it.
amazing. I'm glad you're out there. Keep doing what you're doing because you are certainly giving people hope. I know when you sit down there with your little notepad, you may not think of the people that are receiving, but so many people around, across America and around the world are just absolutely buoyed up and informed by the things you write. So keep it up. You're amazing. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I will put all of the links in the description and have a great afternoon, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, Jenny. Bye.